The world is a global village.
And that's because information travels beyond boundaries.
And on This Morning on ITV,
we guarantee unbiased analysis on topical issues
that will educate you,
entertain you.
So join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Every Sunday to Thursday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on your ultimate news and current affairs program on television. This Morning on ITV TMI. Join us.
Thank you for joining me on TMI Tuesday. The need to institute governance in order to bring about a viral democracy, or what we can also call the dividends of good governance, has been what a lot of advocates have been really up on. And we look at the need for us to look at the issues surrounding the political landscape of the country, the democratic norms in governance, and the progressive advocacy. Becomes ripe for us to really look at. We will be taking a dive across federal and, of course, state in particular, and seeing the political development in Edo State. Discussing this very topic with me from my immediate left, I have a custodian of the law, Matthew Advocacy. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Philip.
And also next to him is the Coordinator General of Edo Civil Society Organization, Leftist Omabude Ago. Thanks for coming.
Phillips, good morning. Good morning.
Again, we have another custodian of the law. He is the Assistant Secretary General, Lion Branch, NBA Benin. He is Dennis Osai Ago. Thanks for coming, Dennis.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's start with you, Matthew. Looking at what we have, we look at what Thomas Hobbes theorized about the theory of the state and the need for life not to be short and nasty and brutish, the purpose for which governance was instituted. Now, there's this component of trust in governance that seems to be washed away by politicians after elections, not living up to expectation that the electorate really placed on them when they went to the polls. Can you see the present-day politicians as breaching that trust?
The observance of that expectation is more met in breach than in compliance. The electorate are not exonerated from the guilt of making the wrong choices and taking wrong political decisions when the opportunity arises. Each time we warn that votes that are sold is equivalent to liberty sold. Once your liberty is voluntarily surrendered, as in you transacted with it as an article of commerce, whatever the buyer does with it is morally justified, because you cannot eat your cake and have it back. The business of democracy is about mutual contracts. You entrust your mandate in the hand of the person you elect to represent your interests. I'm talking about the public interest now, the voters, the individual voter interest embedded in it. So that in return, he has to deliver goods and services that will better your life. But by the time you now use the opportunity of electing your leaders to do some transaction, commercial transaction, as in buying and selling of votes, you have deliberately sold your rights. And rights sold cannot be had back. You are at the mercy of the purchaser of the rights.
Okay.
So as we speak, majority of Nigerian electorates who are into the habit of selling their votes, either in cash or in kind, are partly to be blamed for irresponsible and irresponsive leadership.
Okay, I said that to say this. If we look at a critical look at the ruling party at the center, looking at the promises that came with the change slogan.
In 2015,
there seems to be
in 2015, change was promised. And the change that Nigeria got was disastrous. And they began to ask the question. We didn't actually inquire what nature of change we were promised. They just said we'll give change. And you didn't ask, is it for the better or for worse? And it was very evident and manifestly clear that the change was actually the type that brought life, downwards instead of upping the standard of living of the people.
Okay.
I haven't failed in that regard to deliver positive change. Although change was delivered, it was negative. Economy collapsed. Security became a very major issue. It came to a point Nigeria can no longer travel on the highways without the fear of being kidnapped or hacked down by bandits. And the bandits were holding meetings and taking selfies with security agents in the name of dialogue. So it became a chaotic situation that was achieved by that change agents.
Okay.
Haven't failed to deliver that positive change. They changed the slogan to next level. And here we are on the next level now. The threshold of next level promised Nigerians. We have not seen the dividends of a better level. Next level could also end up as a negative next level. We hope it doesn't end up like that.
Okay, let's get to the view of the leftists. You've been in the vanguard of ensuring transparency in governance and making sure that government is responsible. If you take a critical look at what the promises that came with the change slogan, and then we have the next level slogan, can you say that it measures up with democratic norms?
Change, yes, they did promise without those materials that goes with the change. So, like he said, they promised us change, but they didn't tell us what kind of change we were expecting. So, if we didn't have the kind of change we were expecting, then we don't know what kind of change should come. We have a system that have come on board without a manifesto. I don't know if you have seen one, Phillips. We are still in that democracy where those of us in the left kept insisting that we shouldn't have a government that doesn't have a manifesto. And they told us to shut up. That's whatever has been said is the manifesto. Until in the course of the change, we were informed that all that we saw said were mere words that were not documented, and it was on signboard ads that were being pronounced by supporters of the change mantra leader. So that change is actually not what we negotiated. That's why whatever we got, we will accept it because it is the change we wanted to see. The change again that we got is the one that that removed us from what the norms that we used to have, you know, and we began to see what we now have. So it's still changed, so it's still correct. They used to steal all the monies with impunity and bragados, and the wrongs seems to be right in that era of transformation. And when the era of change came, the AFC became more effective and powerful. They began to recover money, and now they have decided to transform from this change to where we used to be. Okay. So they are transforming. So all the money that have been recovered till now, we still ask the question, where are the money? And they tell us, no, we are transforming it from some people's pockets to another set of people's pocket. That is why Nigeria's government will still need to borrow. It was in the news today that we are still going to borrow $29 billion, $29.something billion again. And we can see a Senate president who is giving a nod and support to that, making us to be one of the most borrowing nation in the world. And we are not investing it on any projects that will add value to the life of the ordinary Nigerian. We have been borrowing and borrowing, and what we have borrowed is not up to what has been recovered. I mean, we have recovered more stolen funds than what has been borrowed. We are not seeing the one that have been recovered. The Abacha loot have, in 3 trenches, have been returned, and by what we see, because we don't know what is the truth, but what we see on the paper or what they have announced or that they have recovered is far, far higher than what we are borrowing. So I still don't see the need for borrowing. But again, we are now in the transformation agenda. So I want to think that that is what they mean by transformation, because it was not again defined, just like change was not defined to Nigerians. The transformation to...
No, it's next level.
Next level. Yes, just like change was not defined, the next level too wasn't defined to us. Even though we saw the arrow going up in the design, it could also be a mirror reflection, because if you are looking at the mirror from the other side, what goes down could be seen to be going up. I think again we are in an arcade, and we heard recently that they've shut the borders from other Nigerians from going out to enjoy the things of civilized life, whereas they that made the law themselves are going out to enjoy it. We've shut borders so that there will not be import of
foreign products. We like it. But again, those that made the law or made the policy to stop the importation of foreign products are enjoying everything from the Obodo Ibo. So I think that this next level, again, we can only use our mind to assume that the next level might not be this way up, but the other way down.
Okay, thank you, Omobude. Now, Osaitin, let's take a retrospect at what Matthew said concerning the trust that seems to be breached. And he did say that the electorate also share in this part, because you look at leadership in governance and not being able to get it right, trying to grapple with what could bring about dividends of good governance. Do you think the electorate shares in that?
Very, very well. I consider the fact that it's a two-way thing. So the electorate has a fair share of the blame, because, like he said, at every 4 years, at every interval for a democratic intervention, when there's going to be an election, the electorates have now formed the habit of mortgaging their rights, their rights to vote, their franchise, for as little as 500. Some of us, almost wept when we embarked on these election monitoring exercises, and you see how much Nigerians are willing to take in exchange for their vote. So when you now begin to see a government that doesn't care about your welfare, doesn't believe in delivering the dividend of democracy, it's a function of the followership. Because I know, for example, if the followership demands accountability, demands performance, demands the dividend of democracy very forcibly, like they do on social media, like we see them, the government will be up and doing. They will be willing to deliver on those promises. But when you now see an electorate that is not, that's very docile, they are not responsive enough, they are not willing to hold their government to account and then monitor how this mandate is being expended, then of course you will also have a government who is not really willing to perform. What they do in the 4 years is probably a man's words to buy the next, the next election by way of rigging, or then outright, they now call it scientific rigging. They don't steal ballot boxes anymore. What they do is to corrupt the electorate. On election day, you see loads and loads of cash being expended on at the venue of the elections, just to buy votes and then corner these favors from the electorate. So at the end of the day, they don't see any responsibility. They don't see any need. There's no moral obligation on them to perform. Haven't sold your vote. What moral right do you now have to question a corrupt leadership? So we are calling on the electorate again to, do a retrospect, look inward, and then see whether or not that's your 5,000, that 500 is what your right, is what your access to good governance or good education or health. If you now think and weigh these options, you will now also know that you have a greater part of responsibility to ensure that your vote counts.
There is this great issues coming up even in the ruling party in the state, and the political developments that have been leading to the declaration of suspension temporarily of political rallies in Edo State by the state government. Do you see that as meeting two democratic norms?
If I see it as
being in tandem with democratic norms.
Democracy is a game of rights and freedom. And freedom and rights are exercisable in compliance and in conformity with the laid down rules, especially the rule of law and the extant constitution of any given society. It is not exercised at large. Those rights are not exercised at large. They are regulated rights.
So there are limitations?
They are regulated by the laws.
Okay.
Freedom of movement does not mean you should go and be walking at the middle of a highway and be obstructing traffic. There is, in organized country, there is a pedestrian track. There is a cyclist track. If a cyclist is not riding on the motorway where heavy duty are supposed to move, that is a wrong exercise of that freedom of movement.
That could bring chaos.
Yes.
Like the obeisant pattern of life.
Chaos will be the result. And to avert that, the law should be the compass that will direct all our courses in the sense of our democratic rights.
Okay, but do you see that in the direction of the state government doing this for the purpose of avoiding chaos?
The state government is the custodian of the law and order. Their duties to make sure they regulate conduct and activities in accordance with the laws. And political parties, again, are governed by party constitutions. Being a member of the party means you have subscribed to be obedient to the constitution of that political party. And political party constitution defines the powers and function of every office holder in terms of hierarchy and the approving authority. At the state level, we have the state chairman of a party. At the local level, we have the local government chairman and executive of the party. So it goes down to the ward level. So when decisions are taken at the party level, the question you should ask is, who were the authorizing authority for that aborted rally? Was the rally organized by the Edo State chapter of the PDP, of the APC, the ruling party? If the answer is no, then that was in violation of the party constitution.
Okay, but you are not taking into cognizance the factional positions.
When you say fashion is not a structure. If the law has not declared, if the court have not declared that this is now the recognized authority, you cannot create fashion in your house and assume or presume that it has become a legal entity. Otherwise, I would have declared myself the head of state of this country as I sit here now. You say there is a fashioner president. That would be a psychiatric evaluation, estimation of reality. Okay. It's wishful thinking. That one might jump and say, I'm not the Oba of Nigeria. We know there is no Oba in Nigeria. There's nothing like Oba of Nigeria Republic. So it's wishful thinking. It is the recognized authority by virtue of the party constitution and a pronouncement of the court of law that determines who is the lawful authority. As we speak, there is no court order restraining the executive of the party in the state from functioning in that capacity or as such. And there is no court order again declaring a new entity as now the recognizable authority. So when you say fashion, those are political statements. In the eye of the law, there can be only one executive organ of the state at the state level and at the national level. Two things can alter it: the court's pronouncements, declaring it or invalidating it. If that does not happen, where did you get the fashion in Edo State from? By mere pronouncement of certain groups? No, that is not how fashions are created. Were there congresses held, parallel congresses? No. As we speak now, there have been no fresh congress. They are still on the mandate of the previous congress of the party. Fashion can only emerge when you fix a date for congress and you have two groups laying claim to a mandate, or maybe there's any conclusive arrangement. When there is a subsisting mandate that is unexpended, fashion cannot crop up from the blues and lay claim to legitimacy.
Okay. Do you have a leftist view in this matter?
My view, as a society practitioner, might not go in this direction. I'm hearing this direction for the first time in that way because I think because of some political toleration. For me, according to the question, does it violate democratic norms? Yes, it does. First is that the Constitution has given us freedom of association and freedom of movement, freedom to our friends and freedom to gather and associate. I still don't see where the governor of the state derives his power from to restrict people from gathering. First, we first saw a publication from the Commissioner of Education restricting all private schools and declaring a closure of private schools and every activity within his premises, or they will be sanctioned. Then we later saw another one from the state government restricting private individuals from using their homes for whatever gathering or political gathering. If you, because of a certain persons, make laws, then lawyers are here, then that law is a wicked one.
Are you not also again going to look at the relationship it has with keeping a secured polity?
That, for me, lawyers are here to say if I'm right or wrong. That, for me, is total tyranny, the Nebuchadnezzar way, the Nebuchadnezzar kind of tyranny. where you, because of some persons, begin to make laws, not considering the rest of the people. That if people now hold meetings in their homes, you are going to withdraw their certificate of occupancy because they hold meetings in their homes. That means Okagbe cannot call a meeting of his family again and have a family association. So for me,
so that Okagbe meeting they were holding.
It is not your business.
Okay.
People have rights to associate. They have right to the association. Okay. They have right to their political gathering. Like he has said, so far, the existing executive of the ruling party in the state has not been validated. So whatever those other people are doing, it's their business. All that matters is for them to come and say, we have done this one, and we want to come and impose that decision on the party. You cannot say, no, we have a constitution as a party, and this is how it goes. But first of all, Section 1, Subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution says that if any law is inconsistent with the provision of this constitution shall prevail. And to the extent that other law is void. The word void means useless. So the governor does not have a power to himself to invalidate that part of the constitution that I've just quoted. The constitution have clearly said.
Okay. As a leftist,
yes,
you just quoted a part of the constitution. Yes. And well, let's get the view of a custodian. Let's see the legal perspective in this direction, as he just said. What's your view?
Just addressing your issue very quickly.
Yeah.
I was first of all correct an impression that, yes, you have a right to associate, but these rights are not absolute. Because the Constitution is very clear in Section 49 that these rights can actually be derogated from. That is to say, if there are laws made by a democratic institution, these rights can actually be derogated from. It means it can be limited within lawful bounds. That's just to correct that impression that you have a right to associate and therefore you can go haywire.
Okay, but what's the purpose of limiting within lawful bounds?
Thank you for asking that.
And I will answer it very quickly. Yes. Very quickly. We know as a fact there is a court injunction restraining a certain Colonel Imose from parading himself as a factional chairman of the APC in Edo State. That injunction is subsisting as of today. So if a person who has been restrained by a court of law created under Section 6 of the Constitution goes ahead to call a rally of that magnitude, are you saying the governor cannot, as a chief custodian and security in the state, take proactive measure to forestall any breakdown of law and order? I say no, sir. Because by the time you now allow impunity to thrive, by the time you now allow a willful disregard of lawful court orders, what you are calling for is a state of anarchy. And that's why I believe the governor, as the chief security officer of the state, has every right, because, mind you, the man sitting there has access to information you and I don't have. He has daily or weekly updates or briefings as to the state of security in the state. So if he, as the chief security officer of the state, is fully briefed that there's bound to be chaos in the state by a few disgruntled elements coming from whatever guys, are you saying the governor should not be proactive? I think not, because the whole essence of having him as our governor is to ensure he protects the life and property of all citizens of the state. I can tell you for free that on a certain day on Airport Road, you saw the protest, violent protests, taking violent dimensions. Are you saying the governor should wait and allow that to degenerate to a state where people start burning houses and then looting shops before he will now say, okay, you have a right to associate? I think not. Because by the time we allow that to fester, it therefore means anybody can wake up tomorrow and say he's the governor of the state, he's the commissioner, he's the chairman, and all that, just because of some certain political interests. Sir, I'm speaking, speaking law here. There is an injunction restraining Imuse and his cohorts from parading themselves. Why would they disregard that injunction and still go ahead to call a rally? For us, those of us as lawyers, we believe that every court order must be obeyed, whether you like it or not. Until you obey that court order, you cannot also complain that your rights have been taken away from you. That is what we're
okay, I'll pause you there. And Matthew, there's been this whole issue where they say when two elephants fight, the grass is the one that suffers. And this whole brewing crisis in the state APC seems to be not in the interest of the people.
I'm not aware any elephant is fighting. Or there are any two elephants in Edo State. We didn't vote for elephants. We voted for Godwin Obaseki as our governor. And I'm not aware he's fighting anybody. he's functioning as a governor of a state, as the chief executive officer, the custodian of the people's mandate. If there's any imaginary elephant that is encroaching into a reserve that is not meant for it, a wild elephant, into an organized reserve, I think that is an encroachment.
Okay, but what do you see about the seeming feud between the factions that relates with the national chairman of the APC and that of the other faction?
Cacophony of noise should not be mistaken for a full-blown crisis. That you want to take what does not belong to you, or assert power that the law does not ascribe to you, is wishful thinking. And that should not be elevated to the level of an elephant fighting. It's a level, it should be defined the way it is, meddlesome interloper. Somebody who has no business on the pitch, encroaching into the field of play when the match is going on. Ordinarily, the match official should quickly organize for him to be removed so that the match can go on. And the audience will not be embarrassed, and the players. So if anybody is coming from outside the circle to want to impose his personal and private will on the majority of the people who chose their leader, and there is no second round of election yet where that mandate has been changed. As far as we are concerned, the mandate is for 4 years. Obaseki is enjoying that mandate, and the people have not organized any what they call it, a snap election as they do in Britain to question that mandate. So whoever is not happy with that mandate should wait till the next round of election. And everybody has just one vote to deliver. In a democracy, you are entitled to one vote. And your one vote cannot be superior to my one vote. It is the totality of the vote cast and the higher number that determines who has the mandate. Obaseki is entitled to the enjoyment of his 4 years tenure, and is also qualified to present himself for re-election when the time comes.
Okay, on what basis? Let's look at the score records, because some say like the Alaudao summit that is usually done annually, looking at the anniversary of his stay in office. Do you see this as reflecting the need for a second?
Personally, I speak for myself as a stakeholder in this state and as a free-born citizen of this country and Edo State. I'm a critical stakeholder, like every other person sitting here. You are going to base performance rating on the people who elected the governor, what they feel about the leadership. And I tell you, let me do a little history of the situation that was on ground before Obaseki assumed office. Edo State were gradually descending into a gangster haven, where might became a right, and there was non-existence of the civil rights. You see, you go to our streets, you see irritating sight of people oppressing and extorting the poor masses in marketplaces, on our streets, in the name of raising taxes or revenue. People's heads were severed.
Okay, all that has changed now.
Yes, Obaseki came and restored sanity in the polity. As we speak now, the gangster paradise has disappeared. The CDA menace, nobody should be in a hurry to forget that nightmare that we're confronted with, where developers will go to his land and discover that the land he bought a few days ago has been sold to another person, and they will warn him not to step his foot on that ground, on that land again, and he will go to everywhere and cry to high heaven. There is no remedy. The people who were operating that empire of lawlessness were above the law, and they were enjoying the protection of the state.
That again is a score point.
Yes. So, it's just not a score point.
No. As in changing the narrative.
It's a milestone achievement. I'm telling you, that is one of the most visible and landmark achievements of a government, restoration of our liberty and preservation of our rights. And when that is achieved, every other thing is secondary. You cannot achieve development infrastructurally when the human development is not achieved, when your right and freedom is not guaranteed. Development of any other sector is useless. You have to be alive to enjoy any facility. If your life is not secured, your liberty is in shackles, what kind of facility are you going to enjoy? When you can't drive your car freely from point A to point B without being harassed and dehumanized. So Obaseki has achieved wonderfully well in that regard of restoring sanity to the polity and bringing people's life to a point where they must be treated like humans.
Okay, now let's look at it from the point of view of the leftists, because I know there's always a different narrative. Now, we look at what has been in the state in the past 3 years of Godwin Obasanjo's administration. Do you have a grasp?
No, I think at this point the narrative might not be much different. I want to agree with those points that Matthew has raised here.
Okay.
Of course, Obasanjo came in and brought about total sanity, not just sanity, total sanity. But again, very unfortunately, recently we are seeing that all of that is gradually creeping in. In case he's watching, he should take note. We are beginning to see those fierce-looking guys already hanging around, even though they are the patronage of the same state government, so that the man, our governor, will not go back to where we are coming from.
You say fierce-looking guys. We don't understand.
Yes. In the name of tax collectors and their taxes, some come as they call themselves those state vigilante government house, the ones that go about beating up civil society and protesters for demanding for their rights, you know, and they are branded in government regalias. So all of that is coming back. We're already seeing them around again, doing all sort of those things we used to hate that the governor came and changed. That's on one side. Two is that even in Edo State, we are sure that we have a government who to an extent tries to do those things that appeals to the people. But again, the kind of what we have now is not actually too different from what we used to have, because what we have now is a product of what we had that we all cried about that we have now. And by that, we still think that there's so much the government need to do. Like my brother said here, the governor is still on his mandate. So we think that all of the support should still be given to him so that he can do better, we can enjoy the complete time of his tenureship. So I'm not part of the elephant fighting from that side, the elephant fighting from this side. For me, if they were fighting for the interest of the people, then I will come out and say, oh, wait, we are supporting what they are doing. The man that wants to take it and the man that thinks he owns it, I'm not fighting because there is no water for people to drink. I'm not fighting because the power sector is bad. I'm not fighting because we don't have a good, good and accessible healthcare system. I'm not fighting because the roads that they say they've tarred are not actually tarred and they are not there. I'm not fighting because Nigerians cannot feed well. They are fighting because they want to take possession of power so that they can continue to loot the treasury. And you know, so I think for me, that's my difference. I think those people are not fighting because they want to represent our interests.
Yes.
They want to represent their pockets.
Yes, there is this issue about a thin dichotomy between mental infrastructure, stomach infrastructure, and where there is in direction to bring about mental infrastructure, some persons are trying to distract the efforts of the governor in that direction. Now, all of this building up in the party, what's your assessment?
In the party, like I said, that is in their party. For me, if we want to see policies of government from that party affecting the ordinary man whose constituency I belong to positively, till now, stomach infrastructure, nothing. Mental infrastructure. If the stomach is sick, of course the mental man is also sick. If the man's stomach is not well cared for, there's no way the man's brain can work well. So that is why some politicians those days, I don't want to mention them, I'm sure if I say what they say now, you know who I'm talking about. They say don't feed them and let them get filled up. Just give them small, so that they'll come back again. You keep pulling them, give them peanuts, and let them keep jumping like monkeys. It hasn't changed. The poverty level is not just only high, it's getting higher. People are getting hungrier and sick. People are getting more fed up with the system by the day. Every other thing we hear about it is getting better. It's only in the media. So I think it's only those of you in the media that knows about that. But for us who are in the practical life, I don't think stomach infrastructure or mental infrastructure is fixed.
Okay, there are calls by a faction of the Edo State APC executive calling that for the resignation of the national chairman in respect of political developments. What's your perception in that?
Well, speaking for myself personally, I think the emergence of Comrade Adam Oshomole as the national chairman of the APC has been more or less bad luck to the APC, unfortunately, because one would have thought that with his emergence, judging by his background and his antecedents, you know, because of the fact that he performed so well in Edo State, fought the Godfathers to a standstill and all that, his emergence at the national level would have brought more development to Edo State in terms of infrastructure, in terms of appointments and all whatnot. But what do we find? A man who pretended that he was fighting Godfatherism, himself now assuming the posture, the image and likeness of a Godfather. I think that should be condemned. And for those calling for his resignation, it's not only coming from Edo State faction of the APC. Almost all the governors who are elected on the stables of the APC are calling for his resignation. Just this morning, I heard that they've now hurriedly called for a readmission of some persons who were suspended. For example, the governor of Ondo State, a very cerebral senior advocate of Nigeria, a lawyer who became governor of that state, was suspended from the party because he stood against Godfather in his own state. So the same national chairman now already wants to now call them back because he now knows that it's not going to be business as usual. For those calling for his resignation, I think their call may not be out of place. If the national chairman does not go back to his drawing board and then realign himself with the ethos and the principle of democracy, his attempt to become a Godfather will be resisted by all well-meaning members of the APC. Okay. I think the majority of members of the APC in those states don't appreciate how the roles he has played so far, attacking the governor, attacking the person of the governor personally, and then trying to cause chaos in the states that he comes from. It's not an attribute of a good leader. And those that are calling for suspension, I think that call is in order.
The road to Edo 2020, for it not to be bumpy, like some are saying that it seems to be, what's your admonition and meeting with the advocacy of the progressive?
I want to quickly chip in something in respect of this fashion thing that they are abandoning in the press. This Edo State APC fashion is a creation, it's a media creation. I've said in the eye of the law, there's no fashion in the APC in Edo State. There was no fresh congress called by the party at any level to re-elect the party officers. So when you are saying fashion, it's an imaginary term.
So what is it?
You have one party structure in Edo State. There has not been fresh congresses where you had parallel congress and two people emerge as parallel officer of the party. So to be talking about fashion is a media creation. I think the media should correct it. You should recognize what the law recognizes, not what an individual group person claims. That is to promote chaos and anarchy. And that is supposed to be the role of the media. You don't declare a rebel leader the president of a country until he's able to overthrow the government, either by force of arm or through the ballot. Before he will properly sworn in. Okay,
but let's focus on Edo 2020. So there's no fashion as far as let's focus on Edo 2020 yes. And the need for political development to bring about sanity. For the election
like I rightly mentioned, Obaseki was able to restore sanity to the polity, and the people are very pleased with that. And any attempts to now, for the people that he fought to a standstill, to restore that sanity, to say they must revive and reinvigorate that insanity, to erode the sanity that has been restored, will be resisted by those who are benefiting from this situation of orderliness. And that is the majority of the people. They are the beneficiary of that restored sanity. They will not be in the hurry to want that opportunity to slip by their finger through the orchestration of those who were the problem to the system.
Okay. Okay, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
In 1 minute, your final words on this.
We saw when the now national chairman was feeding cops, and those cops have become the lions that are fighting him. Like in their world, they don't see fashions, but in the eyes of every president, we see fashion, we see the fighting. But for me, 2020, I will join those that will fight against Godfatherism. We fought against Godfatherism before, we fight against Godfatherism even now. The people must lead. Affliction, those are the slogans I'm trying to remind all of us. Affliction will not return.
We'll not have a
second time. I want to employ Edo people, not the people, not APC, not PDP. I want to employ the people of Edo State to wake up and stand against Godfatherism. We must decide who becomes our leader,
people will
not
decide.
some persons from somewhere deciding to become the leaders and determine what kind of leadership they provide. But the people must lead. That is the direction I think we should go.
All right, Dennis.
Well, on the final analysis, I want to employ all women members and citizens of Edo State to remain law-abiding and peace-loving. You know, 2020 is just by the corner, and it's going to be determined by majority of lawful voters of Edo State and not one individual from Abuja. For those who are still, trying to fan the embers of disunity and discord and then cause chaos, they should know that Edo State is not going to be a safe haven for them. So they should allow the people to determine those who lead them and let the political elite remember that the people are the ultimate determinants, that the people that are going to be the final judge of their mandate when the election comes.
Okay, thank you, Dennis Osaitin, for pulling through on the show. And of course,
thank you for having me.
Mabudiago, thank you for adding your voice on this. And Matthew Advocacy, thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure.
All right. Well, this is what we call it a wrap on the discussion segment. Like we did say, looking at the need for us to bring about a viral democracy is the responsibility of both the electorate and those who are enlisting themselves to serve the electorate. And the time we start doing this, the better for us to bring about peace, security, and loveliness in the state. Well, don't forget that shortly we'll bring you other segments. Don't you go away.